Welcome one more day to Vital and Harmonia. I hope you enjoy the improvisation. Music helps me to express from my inmost being, overcoming different blockages of expression. And precisely today we are going to go deep into areas of communication, how to find, if we came to work specifically, the blockages of expression in order to bring a gift with creativity of communication. This is the sixth session on this introductory course on Vital Harmonia Soul Therapy. You have more details on the advanced course in the web. And I'm going to be publishing the videos alternatively, 1 week in Spanish, the following in English, because some people told me I'm going too fast and they need more time to process. So I'm going to be releasing the videos in a slower tempo for a better digestion. And now let's go deep into the subject of today. As I said, I'm going to give you different methods with which you can know if you came to work an area of communication specifically. Let's realize that our original soul, the image that comes from our true being of light, emanated from the primordial source, doesn't have any blockage of any kind. It's perfect. It's our best version, but it must be expressed through a human personality. A human being that usually comes with blockages. Our human soul is tormented by this world, is full of traumas. And there is a way to know which kind of trauma we bring. Actually, there are many methods. As I said, if you sum up all the digits of your birth date and you get a number 30, this means you bring a gift of communication. But this gift usually is blocked by different shadows. For instance, the 0 indicates a great potential, but it can also indicate stagnation. The 3 is relation between opposites, creativity, sensitivity, movement, but as this is often blocked, it brings negative vision, a lack of productivity. The 30s can have a great potential of expression. They are very sensitive, very creative, but when they have some trauma, they find it very difficult to express this great creativity, and this pushes them down into manic depressive states, negativity, pessimism, stagnation. They don't bring what they have to bring. And very often it's due to a lack of understanding, but also due to a lack of a structure, of order, and therefore energy is expressed in a disorganized way very intensively. The 30s can be very intense but erratic. Therefore, energy must be channeled properly in an harmonious way. And very often the 30s enjoy reading many books or getting into contact with many people to chat, but they can get very superficial to mental, intellectual. They very often go into courses and write down lots of information, but they don't put into practice what they learned. And this is a problem because obviously a logic structure is required, but it must be inspired by the energy of action. There must be a transformation of the world, a union of intuition and logic. Now, there are other human personalities that have the trait of logic, order. For instance, if after summing up all the digits of your birth date, you get a 4 on the base, in case you have 13 or 31, for instance. This means you will feel inclined to follow step-by-step processes, techniques, methods. You are very mental as well, but lacking the sensitivity of the 30s, you'll find more difficult to access the expression, spontaneous expression of the heart. And this blocks the communication as well. Therefore, it's necessary to open the heart to allow something to flow, just as the 30s need a structure to express their fullness of energy. The 40s need a certain input from inspiration coming from their being. Everyone has the possibility of connecting with the original soul, to be inspired by what is was known as Holy Spirit in some teachings. And this opens up the possibility of communication. Now, the false might feel the need to express everything in concepts, in structures, but we have to take into consideration expression is something very wide, so we can express with our hands, our arms, our full body, the tone of the voice as we were seeing. Now, there is an even more specific method to know if you have come with deeper blockages of expression communication. In this case, you are going to do the following. Get your birth date, and wherever you see a 0, put a 7. Wherever you see a 1, you put a 6. And wherever you see a 2, you put a 5. Not the other way around. And then you are going to sum up all the digits. If you get the number 4 on the base by reducing, this means you have a psychological energetic structure, number 4, which is specifically connected to a blockage of expression communication. And therefore, all the portals of the structure are going to be influenced by that specific subject or blockage. I already summarized the 10 portals in the other channel. I will leave a video down below so you have an idea. But let's remember that the 4th portal in this case is also connected to communication. Therefore, we have a structure, number 4. And to understand this a bit deeper, let's suppose someone was born on April 13th, 1984. There you see 2 4s in the birth date. Make the replacement, so it's not 13, it's 1 replaced with 6, so it's 63. We leave the 4, then we find 1984, so 6, 9, 8, 4. When we sum up, we get 40. So the base is 4. Therefore, we have the structure, the energy structure number 4. And then we know that this person is going to have blockages of communication on all portals, but the portal of communication is specifically blocked. And when this happens, the person has different characteristics, not all together, but let's say several can be active. For instance, it can be a very shy person, quiet, not knowing how to express something, which is very intense, very deep, but they don't know how to say it. And this generates a repression that sooner or later bursts. The person might get angry, use even aggressive language, bad words, attacking those who seem a threat. So the person can go back and forth from being too submissive or too rebellious. But there is also a lack of self esteem. The person doesn't value herself, himself, falls into self compassion, self deprecation, and therefore this externalizes eventually and criticizes others, criticizes the world with a very negative vision because of this repression of expression. And there can be other characteristics such as the addiction to aesthetic operations, especially in women. They might ask a surgeon to put silicone on their breasts or Botox in their lips to make them more voluminous and therefore look more attractive as they understand attraction, but they don't realize that's not true beauty, that's not true proportion, and they are going to be attracting empty head and empty hearted men. So it's a tragedy of their condition. They don't realize they are trying to replace externally a lack that they feel within. They lack their authenticity. This can also be expressed through an excess of makeup or dressing with fashion clothes, something that attracts the attention of others. And this is falling into an authentic life. And obviously, this happens with men as well. Many get addicted to bodybuilding. They feel stronger by becoming more voluminous with more muscle. But again, this is very often related to insecurity, to feeling the world as a threat. So they are expressing physically this lack of self esteem, true self value. They might consume whey protein or a diet loaded with protein, meat, eggs, so on. They can even consume anabolic substances to make the body more voluminous, and thus they are poisoning themselves. The body cannot even absorb any protein from any animal. The body builds up protein, but it doesn't absorb, so they are generating a greater problem. Now, all this doesn't mean women should not make up or men should not bodybuild. It depends on the circumstances. In some circumstances, makeup and dressing elegantly can be attuned to an expression from the soul, from the true soul, and bodybuilding, in some cases, can be useful to overcome an injury, for instance. Now, there can be other obsessions related to the lack of expression. One of them is the addiction to risky sports, climbing high mountains, for instance. They lack something inside, so they look for the input of dopamine, the hormone of motivation, adrenaline, the hormone of explosive emotionality, which is somehow an expression, but in a context with, which is not completely in tune with the potential of the human being, which is helping others bring in light to the world. And again, this doesn't mean someone should not climb mountains or do something risky if it's to help others, to bring others from a risky situation. That's a proper context. But if the person loves climbing mountains and one day gets killed, leaving a family behind unprotected, then the soul is accumulating negative karma, negative debt. So this is going to be paid sooner or later. Therefore, all has to be taken into consideration. The soul has to be healed in order to allow the heart to express what it must express. And when this healing does not take place, then the expression becomes physiological. There are certain physical conditions that express the lack of mental and emotional expression. For instance, the person might get problems in the throat, hypothyroidism, hyperthyroidism, nodules, or other types of affections in the throat. There might be difficulty in singing. I had this problem years ago when I went through the health crisis with allergies, systemic inflammation, and I could not sing at all. My voice broke up. So I had to find the solution little by little to understand what was taking place. And there can also be addictions to anything that comes through the mouth: drinking, smoking, consuming sodas with an excess of sugar. Sugar is related to the expression of the mother, the loving expression of the mother. Therefore, the person is looking for something sweet, demanding love. But love has to be expressed. If we don't express the true mercy and true love, then this becomes a repression. There can also be addiction to starches, especially refined biscuits, cookies, and so on. They contain lots of sugar as well, both complex and simple. And when the repression of expression is not solved, then the person might also feel the need to eat a lot, overeat, to get many snacks. This is known as emotional eating. I used to fall into this condition time ago. I became addicted to peanuts or potato chips, biscuits, especially when I was in a nervous condition or not knowing what to do. That was a way of filling the void. And this can generate digestive problems, obviously, especially if you have a melancholic temperament, as myself. And there can also be anorexia when the person gets in a state of malnourishment because they eat but then they vomit what they eat on purpose. And again, this is more rooted on a psychological condition, but it affects the body completely. And the problem lies in the traumas of the soul, so that must be addressed first. Now let's remember we are in the energy structure number 4, and all the portals are affected, magnetized by this blockage of expression. In the case of the portal number 4, we have a blockage of 2/6, because there are two 4s. The month, April, is 4, and 84 has another 4. It's not a very strong blockage, but it can give some problems. And in one occasion I was contacted by a woman for consultation, and I realized she had a blockage of 4/6. And I told her she would have troubles in expressing something, and this might manifest psychologically, physiologically. And she laughed because she said in their whole family, all the members were stutterers. They had difficulty to speak. However, she spoke properly because she had overcome the situation and she was helping the other members of the family to speak properly. So this is a proof that the blockages can be overcome. They come as a shadow, but to be transcended. As I said, gifts lie behind the shadow. And where we find a trauma, we also find the gift and the vocation. The shadow can be a help to find what we have to do in life. Now realize how in this case, in this birthday that we have, there are other numbers. The number 3 of 13 indicates the portal 3 is going to be blocked. There is going to be a negative vision, pessimistic view of the world, full of fears, doubts, incapability of acting quickly, being caught up in slow decisions. And this is due to the inheritance from a negative mother. Maybe the mother transmitted a very negative view of the world, and therefore the person in this case cannot express, view the world as it is, and therefore cannot communicate the truth properly. And we also find one blockage, which is connected to the portal 6. We don't take into consideration the 6 that we get from the one in 1984 because that doesn't add new information, so there is just one 6, and therefore the portal 6 is blocked. And portal 6 has to do with an harmonious orientation in the field of matter. Therefore, when the person is unable to express the true soul, this leaves the person with an inner void, in great depression, with a very intense sadness. Therefore, the person tries to fill the void by means of intense pleasures. They can be of different kinds, but in this area there is often an incorrect sexuality. The person tries to fill the void with a selfish sexual gratification of different kinds, and this only increases the void. The person can also fall into the consumption of drugs to access certain altered states, and this only makes the problem deeper. When the soul doesn't get healed, the problem expresses somatically on the physical level. In this portal, the blockages of expression are not only connected to sorrow, sadness, suicidal attempts, or suicidal thoughts, but it can also manifest physiologically with problems of immunity, parasites in the gut, different infections. There can be problems in the reproductive organs, infertility. Women very often have polycystic ovaries. I have met several cases in which they had this portal block with a strong blockage. But again, all goes deep into the inability to express the true soul. And we can only express our true soul when we are connected to our mission in life, working in our vocation, with our gifts. And there are also ways to find our gifts. For instance, the blockages are a clue, but then we have a broader way to know what we are meant to do. The tree of life, or the Psychotherapy tree, is very useful for that. In the following video, I will be exploring the 22 paths of the Psychotherapy tree in a very summarized way. I have already explained the Psychotherapy tree in the other channel, but here I'll be giving clues on the paths. There are 10 receptive spheres and 3 which are active. In total, there are 13 spheres and 22 paths. And obviously, in the advanced course, I give many more details on the psychotherapy related to the paths. But the following day, I'll be giving some clues concerning the vocations associated with each path. It will be in 2 weeks. The following, I'll be doing the video in Spanish, and then the one afterwards in English. So until then, thank you very much for listening. I hope all this was helpful. Tell me what you think in the comments. Meanwhile, remember, there is another channel where I explore the tree of life, the teachings connected to Hebrew wisdom and other traditions. There is a web with more information. I also have a blog called themusicofwisdom.blogspot.com, Song of Reality. And for now, let's keep opening the space to express the supraconditional love and modified life, integral conscience, and deep blissful serenity.